Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bharat Manthan podcast, where we talk about the issues and challenges that are being faced by the hill cities and towns of the Indian Himalayan region. For today's episode, we have with us a very celebrated environmental journalist, Ms. Nidhi Jamwal, and who's going to be here, and she's going to be sharing her experiences over the years of how she's been to these different places in India, Nepal, and other regions also, and talk of the things that she's witnessed and how we can, probably address those issues and challenges. So, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you
great
so
to
much.
have you here for our episode today. So, just to begin with, we've seen that it's already so hot here, and we've seen the minute it gets hot here, sab pahadon mein bhag jate hain. So that has in fact resulted in, we've seen in news channels also, and we've seen this before COVID also. We remember those images coming out of Himachal Pradesh, जहाँ पे water scarcity हो गई थी, tourists के लिए पानी नहीं था. We've seen those long, traffic jams in these hills. So why do you think this is such a big concern for us, and what should we do about it?
Yeah, I think if you see in summer season, as you rightly pointed out, if you open any of the social media sites, you will see everybody's rushing towards the hills because it's so hot in the plains. And as we all understand, because of climate change, rising temperature, heat waves are also increasing. That also becomes another reason for people to rush towards the hills to get some respite from the heat. And so you will see a lot of these social media visuals where we see traffic jams worth kilometers, sometimes running into 8 to 10 kilometers to say reach Shimla and other hill stations. So now what we must understand is that these hill stations, because of the way they are located, the kind of topology they have, the kind of capacity they have, they are not like cities like maybe, Delhi, Gurgaon, or Mumbai to handle this kind of pressure. So when so many people together go in that region, which is ecologically fragile, which has limited resources in terms of power, in terms of water, in terms of systems to manage their waste,
Absolutely.
it becomes a huge problem, which is why if you see our hill stations are almost becoming like garbage dumping grounds. I remember 2 years back, we had gone for a family vacation, and a little bit of I had done a story also around Oli hill station in Uttarakhand. So I also wanted to go and revisit that place. And it's a beautiful, pristine hill station. But you just walk a little bit on the side and you see the slopes, they are all trashed with plastic, which cannot be managed in hill station. So definitely hill stations are almost becoming like your, garbage dumping yards at such higher altitude.
Right. I think it's sad, but it's now becoming like a meme material. Like what we see on social media is it's sad to see how the hill stations that were so like revered and used to look forward to those visits are now being populated by number plates from different states of India, and all of them coming at the same time with the poor access and availability of the resources like water, sanitation, related challenge. But also now we're reading on social media platforms that there are a lot of tourist influx at like 8,848 meter Mount Everest, the EBC, the base camp. And you recently visited the EBC. Could you share like why this is happening or what is the situation like at EBC with respect to the large influx of human population there?
So 2 points, Anant, I will make. One is, like you said, that the pressure on hill stations and the water needs and all. Delhi is having a huge water crisis right now, as we all know. And Delhi government also reached out to Supreme Court saying that we have water problems, so we want water. So the court has told Himachal Pradesh to release extra water for Delhi. Now the point is that, so we must remember that we all live downstream. All our water supplies are coming from the Himalayan regions, especially if I'm looking at North India. All our cities are dependent on the Himalayan. Now, Himalayan states have their own pressures to meet now during summer season because all the people from the plains are actually going to these hill stations. So their water needs, their food needs, their travel needs, everything has to be met. To top it all, these hill states also have to supply water downstream to the cities. So in future, it's going to become more of a problem because your water supplies are limited. Your glaciers, as we all understand, are melting. Okay, so your stream flows in rivers are also reducing. So this kind of fight between upstream and downstream, plain cities and hills states is going to increase. Now, talking about the Everest region and the Everest Base Camp, just last month I went to the Everest Base Camp. It was as part of a Himalayan climate boot camp, where a group of 8 journalists from SAARC countries were taken to the Everest region. The main reason was that as journalists, as environment journalists, we travel to different areas, we look at a situation, we understand it, we speak to scientists, and then we report about it. But none of us really go to a region like Everest region. The whole idea of this boot camp was, let's take journalists there for them to understand what's happening to the water situation, glaciers, waste situation in one of the most ecologically fragile areas, which is the Everest region. And it's very important. Everest region is in Nepal, as we all understand, but it's very important for people in India because our rivers are coming from that region. Right. So all the rivers in Nepal, they eventually flow into India. Right. So whatever is happening to the rivers in Nepal, which originate through glaciers in the Himalayan region, is affecting us because our water supply is coming from there. So we went to the Everest Base Camp last month, and I was, to be honest, shocked to see the crowd there. I mean, I've traveled to a lot of hill stations in India, and they're used to seeing a lot of tourists and crowd and all when you're walking, people. I was surprised that and people kept telling me in Kathmandu that when you go there, you will see a lot of climbers, but I never thought a lot will be really a lot. So all this while you're walking, Bukla is the airport here, which is known as the gateway to Everest. So you land in Bukla, and from Bukla, then you trek up to the Everest Base Camp, which is about 65 kilometers. All along that journey, there were so many people who were either going to the Everest Base Camp or they were summiters who wanted to summit Everest. So that's the kind of rush that you will see even in the Everest region during. And if you have seen some social media posts last month, it was shocking to see actually traffic jam on the summit of Everest, which you had like a kilometer long queue. And it's not a vehicle traffic, it's a traffic of human beings, climbers who are actually waiting in a line to summit Everest. So imagine what we've done. We've actually created a traffic jam on the highest point on earth. That's the kind of situation that is there.
And these are and is this month that you travel to for the EBC camp, is that the tourist peak season or is it some other month?
Yes. So Everest region, they have 2 seasons in a year. So one season is pre-monsoon when they allow, like right now, the climbing season is almost ending because the monsoon is coming. So there will be no climbing happening. I mean, people do climb, but not like, people from all across, they don't come to climb Everest at that time. After the monsoon gets over, they again open it for, climbers. Yeah. So there are 2 seasons. And usually, a season would be like, say, 70 days, 60 to 70 days. So that's when you have maximum people coming in and trying to, either go to EBC, Everest Base Camp, or those who are like mountaineers. They try the summit, Everest summit.
Now, I've never been to the EBC, but how affordable is it? Like, Because I would assume that it's a niche hobby or a niche desire to visit the Everest Base Camp. But it seems that a lot of people are turning up for these climbing events. So how affordable is it, and do you rather just if you could answer this?
Yeah, so regarding affordability, it's a very, very expensive passion, I would say. Only people who have money, who are rich, can actually go to Everest Base Camp or summit Everest, unless there are a lot of mountaineers who are actually sponsored. You know, a lot of who are serious mountaineers, serious climbers, they are sponsored by different groups. But yes, it is an expensive thing. It's not something that I just pack my bags and I say, okay, let me just go to Shimla. Because right from the kind of clothing you need there, because when we were in Everest Base Camp, the temperatures at night near were like some -7 degrees in May month. So that kind of temperature means you need proper clothing and all that. So that is there. Of course, reaching there, you have to pay a fee. Like if you want to summit Everest, then there is a Nepal government charges a fee of $600 per climber who wants to summit the Everest. So that's the kind of money, that's the money just you have to give to the Nepal government. After that is all you need a porter, you need a Sherpa guide, you need your own stuff which you will carry with you. If you believe it or not, when we were going to Everest Base Camp, we visited a village called Phumjung. It's a Sherpa village. And I was talking to one of the farmers over there, and she told me that the cost of rice there is 6,000 rupees per kilogram.
That high?
Yes. The cost of one LPG cylinder is 12,000 rupees. Nepali rupees. That's the cost of food and other stuff over there. Which means that when you go there, you eat stuff, you use stuff, it is expensive. Because these people have to bring everything from very much down. So there is a huge cost. So that's the kind of thing. So it is, so most of the people who are going there are people from urban areas, at least the ones that I met. And I met a lot of Indians, a lot of people from Maharashtra and Gujarat coming in big groups of, a group of 15 people. And I met a lot of children, like, as old as, say, 15, 16 years old. Some of them were even 13, 14-year-old Indian kids who have come with their family and all.
Are they come for vacation or are they come for like serious climbing?
So, no. So I think, what has happened is that it's become like, I mean, I don't know if it's correct to say, but I do feel that somewhere Everest Base Camp is becoming almost like a fad now. A lot of people will say, oh, where are you going in the summer? We are going to EBC. So it's become like that. And because it is, people have money in cities, they are bored of going to, Shimla, Darjeeling, and, other Indian Gangtok and other hill station. So they want to explore new areas. Then also, I think there is a huge pressure of social media reels and everything. Everyone wants to go to the most pristine areas and make nice videos and put them on social media. I feel that's also there. So you see a lot of people going there. I wouldn't say they are into serious climbing. To be very honest, I'm not into serious climbing. I mean, I went there as part of an assignment. Right. So a lot of people are going there more like summers hai, vacation hai, so chaliye wahan chalte hain, like that.
So they, like, just to understand, so this Everest Base Camp,
Yeah.
they set up camp there, and they stay there for the season that it's open, or there are set number of days and they just stay there, or do they also climb? So climbing is not necessarily what they're expected to do.
No, they do. So what they would do is that anybody who wants to go to the Everest Base Camp starts preparing, say, 2 months in advance.
Okay.
Because you're looking at a very higher altitude, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to acclimatize. You have to be able to, because every day when you're going to Everest Base Camp, every day you are trekking for, say, 6, 7 to 8 hours. And every day it's like climbing. Steep. Exactly. So you're gaining altitude. So high altitude sickness also becomes an issue. If you're not used to mountains and all of that. Of course, when you go at that altitude, oxygen is less. So you have to, acclimatize yourself to be able to breathe even when you have less oxygen supply. So they start training for it. And now if you will see, there are a lot of these small, groups, hiking groups and all, who get these people together and then they organize, we're all going to EBC, like that kind of thing. So they do trek to Everest Base Camp. Now, what happens is that all along this 65 kilometers one way, there are small Sherpa villages on the way. And the Sherpa villages now have the facilities of lodges. These are like homestays or things like that. So they have these lodges for people, climbers who come. So every day you say trek for 7 or 8 hours and you reach a particular Sherpa village. You spend the night there in a lodge. And then next day morning, you again start your trek and you go to the next level. So like that, you every day try and reach till the Everest Base Camp. At Everest Base Camp now, because the oxygen is low, it's a difficult area. A lot of times, people go there, stay there for an hour or two, and then come back down again. But people who are into some bit of climbing and all that, they also put up their tents there. So Everest Base Camp is like, I would like to tell the listeners also that actually Everest Base Camp is located on a glacier. Khumju is a glacier there. So you have Khumju glacier, Khumbu glacier, and on that you have the Everest Base Camp, which has these tents. And when we reached there on 9th of May, there were about 1,000 tents put up on the glacier. See, as an environmental journalist, to me it was shocking.
Right.
You know that, I mean, I
That's
see.
very shocking for us to hear that.
Yeah, so you suddenly see, you reach and you see this beautiful glacier, and then you suddenly see these yellow things on top of it, and these are all these yellow tents which are put up there. So they were about 1,000. I even asked the official who manages the Everest Base Camp, and I asked him that, do you know how many people per night are there? So he said that we really don't maintain that kind of data, but possibly there would be 1,000.
Oh my God.
And maximum you can spend 1 or 2 nights there with permission. Like otherwise you just can't go and put your tent over there, because at least that much they regulate, and also because it's not easy to survive there. So that's, and now when you go there, you see people living on a glacier. And so naturally, if people are living there, then you would question that people eat, sleep, they pee and poop. Where does all
That
go?
was supposed to be my next question to you out of curiosity. They're living there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
How do they access, say a toilet, which is not there?
Right.
How do they sort of go about that?
So there, what they do is they create these makeshift toilets, like, a tent kind of thing. And all that is there is a drum. So there is a huge blue colored drum that is put there. You just squat on it, you pee and you poop till it fills up, and then they will replace that drum.
Like a container based on it.
Yes. And so that's the way. And then, of course, I asked them, then what happens to it when it gets filled up? Because at that altitude, what do you do with it? It's all mixed up. So then I figured that there are actually porters, human beings, who actually carry that container filled with our pee and poop, carry it down and give it to the farmers to use it in their fields. So that's also a cost. I mean, to be very honest, I was very much affected when I got to know that a human being was going to carry our pee and poop and just carry it down. But what do you do in that altitude? I'm just throw it there. So that's what it is. And the reason all these tents are put up on the glacier is because we need water. We drink. The water comes from the glacier. So which is why it is on this. And I would also like to tell the listeners that the Khumbu Glacier is actually sinking. It's actually receding. And
As a result of
absolutely.
these human
one of
living
the
here.
results. And so glaciers are receding because of various factors, and one of the main factors is, of course, rising temperatures and the anthropogenic reasons. Like, so many, imagine you have so many people suddenly going and living there. Of course, it's going to put pressure on your glacier, but so many people. Even in that area, it's like if you reach EBC it's almost like a mela in that season. Because, people have come from right from South America to North America to Russia to Europe. Everybody is there during the climbing season. It's like one huge party which is there on the EBC. But I do give credit to the local management that they still manage it quite well. I mean, they manage it better than our hill stations, to be very honest.
But it can be better.
Of
Improve
course.
further, right?
Absolutely.
And water का क्या access रहता है? Like how does one access water when you're up there? Because I was assume that water freezes, right?
Right.
At that temperature. How do you
Correct.
access it?
So what people generally would do is that so a lot of from the Khumbu Glacier only, you have rivers that come like Dudh Koshi is one river which comes from Khumbu Glacier only. And I should say Dudh Koshi because the water is so good, it's like white, because it's flowing over the rocks and all. It looks absolutely white and beautiful water. So when you moving around, you actually keep drinking water from these rivers. When you go in May season, the rivers would not freeze. Of course, glaciers are frozen. So you use water from the rivers. You can easily just drink water directly from these rivers, but it's extremely cold water. And you're drinking it in an extremely cold. Yes. So be prepared for a bad throat and all of that. But otherwise, what people do is that they use the glacier. So if you get the snow, just keep it for a while. You'll get water out of it. In any case, your glaciers are also slowly melting. So that is what the whole thing is about the water situation over there. And Dudh Koshi is also very important for us in India because Dudh Koshi is one of the tributaries of Kosi River. We keep hearing of Kosi in Bihar, flood happened, Kosi, exactly, the sorrow of Bihar, we say all that. So Dudh Koshi is one of the tributaries of Sapt Koshi. So Koshi is made of 7 rivers. Dudh Koshi is one of the 7 tributaries which makes, Sapt Koshi, and which flows into India and is Kosi River for us. And Kosi then flows into Ganga in Bihar, and then which eventually flows into Bangladesh and Bay of Bengal. So I think it's very important for us to remember that Everest is actually linking all of us. The river that's coming from there. I think that's a realization which happened with me while we were trekking up to EBC, that it's the Everest which actually helps connect all of us, whether it is Nepal, it is India, it is Bangladesh, because we are all joined together. It is the river, it's the same water. And you look at Koshi flowing and you're like, okay, it's right here. In some days, it's going to be in Bihar. In some days, it's going to be in Bangladesh. Then it's going to be in Bay of Bengal. Then it's all going to come back to us as the monsoon clouds. And again, the water cycle, all what we read, used to read in primary school used to make that water cycle. It's this cycle which is actually sustaining us for millions of years. These rivers are flowing for millions of years. So it's very important to respect them because they are the ones which are actually sustaining us. Really. That's the realization. It really hit me so hard when I was there, watching the peaks, the snow, watching the rivers flowing, and so many people that I spoke to this time, they're all saying that even in Everest region, snowfall patterns are changing. So they used to get maximum snowfall in January, February. Now they have started getting it in March, April, and May. So their snowfall patterns are changing, and this is what the Sagar Pollution Control Committee, the committee which manages that entire region, Sherpa communities. So they said that our snowfall patterns are changing, and why it matters to us is because it is the snow which is feeding the glaciers.
Absolutely.
So it's very important for us to get snowfall in time. They were telling me they are seeing mosquitoes, which they never used to have at that elevation. In Namche Bazaar, which is a Sherpa, they said we never used to have mosquitoes, but now we are seeing mosquitoes also here. So it's like going to be a health challenge also. And again, if you're not managing your waste and water well, you know how mosquitoes will breed in that area. So why waste and wastewater management is also so important.
Right. Become the health concern then.
Absolutely. It is going to become like right now, they don't have like vector-borne diseases, but they've started seeing mosquitoes in that region, which means if the temperatures keep rising, if we don't take care of our waste and wastewater management, all you know, mosquitoes start breeding at that area. And let me tell you, they don't have hospitals there. Health services are so bad over there. If you fall sick, like we all have to do a health insurance because if you fall sick, you have to be evacuated.
Airlifted.
Airlifted through a helicopter and taken. I mean, we went to Dingbuche is again a Sherpa village, very, very high altitude, closer to the Everest Base Camp. And there is a small, not even a small PHC, the health center kind of thing. They don't even have proper facilities for a childbirth there. So forget about having bad diseases coming in that region, because if the bad diseases come in that region,
They're not
they
equipped
just
for
have
it.
no health facilities. How do you get doctors there? Which doctors would want to go and work in that area? I mean,
And that's the closest health facility.
in that area,
In
yeah.
that area.
Otherwise, you all come down to Lukla or even Kathmandu. So it's a very, very huge concern.
I think based on what you said, I think two very prominent things that I understood of this is, firstly, we may think we're so far removed from it in terms of our distance from these places, but the way that we're all bounded by it, like you mentioned, so it's all going to eventually come back to us. And the second thing is, I think, aside all of these problems that you mentioned, I think the aspect of sensitizing people towards these things and possibly introducing behavior changes and educating people about the kind of impacts they levy on places by going to such niche places. I think that's also very important. So have you come across something that's being done, pertaining to these things?
Yes, yes. So, very interesting thing in that region, I think it should also interest the listeners is that, like I was mentioning, there is Sagar Mata Pollution Control Committee. Now, this whole Everest region is located inside Sagar Mata National Park. It's a huge national park in Nepal. And this is where the Sherpa community lives, the indigenous community of that region lives there. So the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee is also made up of members of the Sherpa community, the villages. So if you will see, like in India, what happens is that any national park, as law doesn't allow people to live inside a national park because we like to create, no-go areas in lakes to protect the forest. Now, I was very impressed by Sagarmatha National Park because that national park actually has Sherpa villages in that area, which have been living there for centuries. And they have actually involved the villages to manage that area. So that, of course, Forest Department is also there, but almost all the management of that entire area is done by the Sherpa community through the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. So that's a good thing where the local community is involved in the management because they understand that area, they understand the terrain, they are acclimatized. Sherpas can climb up so much of high altitude, and because they have for generations lived in an area that it's actually research shows that they can actually use the blood oxygen in a far more efficient manner than us because they've always lived at that, which is why you see that they can actually climb up very high without using artificial oxygen.
Even equipment for that matter.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. So it's like that kind of a beautiful management model that they have. So we as people, as climbers, or as tourists, or as people who are into adventure sports or whatever, when we go in that area, I think we must remember that it is the local people, for managing that entire area. So all of us have a responsibility to help them do it. And they are managing it for us. All through the trek of 65 kilometers from Lukla Airport till Everest Base Camp, they have actually set up these nice dustbins. They have like segregated waste. You put your plastics and all on one side and you put the segregated. And I must credit Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee for this, that despite the number of climbers who come in that region, they actually keep that trail so clean. That's again because they've involved the local villages. You can't expect somebody from Kathmandu or Lukla to go every day and pick up your stuff.
Right.
It is the local people who have the responsibility to keep the trails clean. Very rarely, I would see some chips packet or something thrown somewhere, unlike Indian hill stations, which are full of trash. That way they manage. So I think as people, when we visit that area, we have to keep that in mind that we are outsiders. We are visiting an ecologically fragile area which was shut off from the world for a very, very long time. Like I was saying, it's only after 1950 that Nepal opened up for the foreigners. Before that, foreigners were not allowed to get into that country. And of course, Everest region has also opened only recently. It's only, if you speak to local Sherpa people, they said only in the last 20, 25 years that so many people have suddenly started coming in because everybody wants to go to either Everest Base Camp or everybody wants to summit. 17-year-old summits, creates a world record and all, which is great. It's good. There's no harm in doing all this. But I feel that all this has to come with a greater sense of responsibility for all of us. Like simple things you could do, like when we went there, we were carrying our own steel bottles. Or you carry your own thermos because the water gets very cold over there. So usually they say carry a thermos and you keep refilling it rather than buying, plastic bottles, bottled water in the way. It is sad that you have things like all these chips and wafers and, all kinds of things being sold even to the highest level of Sherpa village. Why it's a concern is that most of these are use and throw, single use stuff. You just open a packet, you will eat the wafers, which actually give you zero nutrition, especially in that fortitude. But you have it and you just throw it in the bin. But we must also remember that, we must find out that where does it go from that bin? As a person, if I am traveling from anywhere, maybe in India, and I'm going there, I must try and find out that I've put that plastic bottle, into that bin, or I've thrown chocolate wrapper into that bin. Where is it actually going?
Right.
In our cities only managing waste is so difficult. Imagine how do you manage it at 5,000 meters above mean sea level? So they have no system there.
Especially when you mention that it's been a landlocked place. This kind of consumerism is something that these people are not acquainted with.
Absolutely.
And the fact that if a single-use plastic item as like a chips packet or a plastic bottle, the kind of repercussions it's going to have in such a fragile environment, if it's not removed from there, plastic takes years and years to decompose. This is like food for thought for everybody who's visiting these kind of places. And I think that should come from within one's, conscious also. हम जा रहे हैं तो हम what are the kind of impacts or the footprint that we're leaving behind in a place that is so environmentally sensitive. So
बिल्कुल. और I think हम अपने आप को ये भी कह सकते हैं कि चिप्स और कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स तो मैं रोज ही पीती हूँ, जहाँ रहती हूँ है ना. वो तो मेरे ऐसा तो है नहीं कि मुझे वो नहीं मिल रहा है कोई चीज. What you are not getting is an experience of Everest region, है ना. तो आप उस एक्सपीरियंस के लिए जा रहे हैं, तो आप उस एक्सपीरियंस को एंजॉय कीजिए और वापस आके आपको जितना अगर कोल्ड ड्रिंक पीने की इच्छा हो रही है या चिप्स खाने की इच्छा हो रही है, घर आके खा लीजिए. उसको मना नहीं कर रही कि मैं मत खाइए, बट मुझे लगता है कि उस इलाके में जहाँ पे उनके पास कोई तरीका नहीं है उसको मैनेज करने का, इवेंचुअली इफ यू आस्क देम दे हैव टू डू इट. दे कैन नॉट डू एनीथिंग विद इट. या तो आप उसको पूरा का पूरा नीचे लेके आएंगे काठमांडू. Imagine from that high altitude again you will have porters carrying it and bringing it down. और अगर आप काठमांडू भी ले आएंगे तो इवेंचुअली क्या करेंगे, उस कचरे को जलाएंगे ही. अब you don't really have material recovery facilities where you can extract something out of it anyway. So I feel that अगर हम लोग जा रहे हैं ऐसी जगहों पे तो हम अपनी बॉटल कैरी, छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं एक्चुअली, पर ये छोटी चीजें अगर हम लोग सब ये करना शुरू कर दे तो वो एक बहुत बड़ा उसका इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है. क्योंकि हम लोग सब छोड़ दें कि अब सागर माता पोल्यूशन कमेटी है वही करे या सरकारें हैं सरकारें ही करें, वो नहीं है, सरकारों का भी अपना काम है, बट इंडिविजुअली भी हम सबका है। हम लोग अपने बचपन में भी जब ट्रैवल करते थे तो हम तो स्टील के डब्बे ही लेके खाना ट्रैवल करते थे।
बिल्कुल।
मुझे याद है मम्मी वगैरह के साथ में हम लोग ट्रेन में ट्रैवल जब करते थे जाते थे गर्मी की छुट्टियों में, तो घर से ही वो टिफिन के डब्बे और पानी की बोतल और ये सब लेके जाया करते थे। You can, if you're going to such higher altitude, you can least you can do is carry a bottle of water.
Right.
And you get, and in all these places, you get very good food. You will get your dal, chawal, everything, healthy food. So let's try and eat that because that also gives some kind of financial returns to the local community. Rather than कि आप वहाँ जाके भी चिप्स विप्स खाएं और कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स पिए या सिंगल यूज जो प्लास्टिक के उनकी प्रोडक्ट्स को यूज करें। इसके लिए एक और चीज मैं बताना चाहूंगी कि वहां पे सागर माथा नेक्स्ट करके एक बहुत ही प्यारा स्टूडियो की तरह उन्होंने सेटअप किया हुआ है। एंड सो वी विजिटेड सागर माथा नेक्स्ट ऑल्सो। इट्स अ ब्यूटिफुल स्टूडियो दे हैव सेट अप where what they are doing is they're actually using the waste materials and creating artistic stuff out.
Upscaling it.
Yeah. So lot of actually artists from across the world are coming and actually collecting all the waste that gets collected from there. They're actually using that waste and creating stuff just to raise awareness about, why you should not be having all this waste over here. So they gave me a very nice Everest miniature Everest thing. And they told me this is made out of 36 caps of plastic water bottles, which they cannot do anything with it.
Right.
So they are using 36, some artist has used 36 caps and he created a nice miniature of Mount Everest and showed it. So efforts are being made in that region to manage it. But I think as individuals, we all must take some responsibility towards these kind of things because we don't want to harm that region. And the reason we also don't want to harm that region is because in this part of the world, if you see, we've grown up praying to our river, we've grown up praying to our mountains. We say Mount Kailash. Right? So we have reverence for it. If you go to Nepal, they don't call it Mount Everest, they call it Sagar Matha. So you will, if you speak to Sherpa community, they will all call it Sagar Matha. And for them, Sagar Matha is a goddess. It's not just like another peak. And in Tibetan language, they call it Chomoluma, which means that the goddess of the world. That's the name they have given it. And that's the importance of, Sagar Matha for them. So I think there's a culture attached to it. There is a reason why, as our ancestors have prayed to these rivers, to the stones, to the hills, to everything, because they sustain us. And that's why they are our gods and goddesses. That is why they are sacrosanct. They have to be protected.
Which is why I think these local communities and these indigenous people, they're the best, we can call them the best gatekeepers of places like this, because the kind of cultural, even religious associations that they have with these natural, the trees, mountains, forests, everything, nobody can understand it better than them. And the fact that, we are maybe not sensitized enough, we don't view it in the same way. It's better to sort of, involve and keep involving these local communities to safeguard and preserve these places. It's a very pertinent point you made.
One thing I would really want to, for listeners, like what one should do is if we are visiting an area like that, it's always good to read about it. Because once you start reading about the cultural practices, their beliefs and all, I think we also start connecting in that way, in that area. So, when you look at, we did not see Sagar Matha from Lukla till Everest Base Camp. And we were all very sad that we've come to Everest region and imagine we've not seen Everest, for which we came all the way. Because if you want to really see Everest, you have to be very lucky. The weather has to be clear. So on our way back, we were all very sad that, yaar, yahan tak aake Everest nahi dekha humne. So, it's like, we're very lucky that on a climb down, we reached a point called Tengpuche, another Sherpa. It's a very famous monastery also in Benguche. We reached there and suddenly we heard a local guide saying Sagar Matha, Sagar Matha. And we all turned back and we asked him, and we had a beautiful view of
Amazing.
the entire range. And then he showed us वो जो बीच में है ना जिसके ऊपर ऐसा क्लाउड सा है वो सागर माथा है. You won't believe. I think we all got so emotional because by that time we had heard so much about Sagar Matha that for us it was almost like goddess.
Darshan.
So we all keep saying, oh, you cannot see God.
Yeah.
But when you see Sagar Mata, you're like, yeah, she's the goddess. She's been sustaining us for so many millions of years. And I mean, I had one journalist from Nepal. He was actually crying. I mean, he got so emotional that he was just looking at Sagar Mata and he had like tears rolling down his eyes. So I think that's the kind of connection we need to have with our nature.
Right.
And we were like, we are so lucky that, on our way back, that she just decided to appear. And that day we got a nice view of her. We sat down for a very long time. We kept looking at the peaks. And, then they were telling us that this is Lukse Peak, and all these peaks are the sisters of Sagar Mata. It's beautiful, stories around these peaks, which they believe that, okay, she is, and then these are all the sisters. They're all together protecting this region and all. So I think if we read up, we also help connect with all these things. Otherwise, we think, oh, these are all programs, silly people, thinking, इसमें पर्वत के अंदर क्यों भगवान है? I mean, people see, mostly that's how maybe Europeans or other people would see us, that silly people, they look at rivers and this is my mother and this is my father or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's important to read up about the area that you're visiting. What are the local cultural practices? What are the local beliefs? And we'll also realize that a lot of science is hidden in it. Start opening the layers and all of that. So really, I think to the listeners also, if you're visiting any of these hill stations, any of these regions, try and read up a little bit about the history, the cultural context, what are the local beliefs of people, because then you'll be able to connect better.
Right. It also creates a sense of ownership and awareness as well.
बिल्कुल.
सिर्फ ठंड के लिए नहीं चलेंगे आप.
बिल्कुल.
You're going there for an experience to learn and to blend with the community.
Exactly.
I think also their cultural practices are their way of living. It's the means for even an outsider to survive in a place like that. I mean, हम अपने यहाँ की the way we live here, we can't take that and live this way there. So to sort of imbibe and take those cultural practices and to live that way is the way that you are going to survive in a place like that.
And you start respecting them when you see the kind of harsh conditions those communities are living in, how they are managing their water. हम लोग इतना पानी बर्बाद करते हैं शहरों में. अब आप ऐसे रीजन में जाइए जहाँ पे पानी की इतनी मुश्किलात है. मतलब हम लोग एक किसी गांव से गुजर रहे थे तो वहां पे 2 शेरपा महिलाएं पानी कलेक्ट कर रही थी. बिकॉज वहाँ एज I think the listeners would also know, mostly springs जो है वहां से पहाड़ों में पानी जो है तो स्प्रिंग से ही आता है ज्यादातर. So we spoke with 2 women who were collecting water from a spring. There's a pipe coming from the spring and they were collecting water and they carry these huge plastic containers. Again, they have to carry them on their head. They put a head strap and then they carry it on their back. So we asked them that, how much they were saying they take 45 minutes to 1 hour to fill 1 tank.
And how much time to go up and down?
Oh, that depends on their village. So they might spend like some 40-45 minutes with that huge water thing and they have to do it multiple times. See, in a plane, you can carry 4 pots on your head and 1 here. In goods, you can't do that. So you can only carry 1 plastic can. They put a head strap and on their back, then they hang that.
Yes.
And so we asked them also about, what's happening to water supply and all that. So they were also saying that the water that used to come from springs is slowly decreasing. So they take longer time to fill their water. So that's also तो जो हम इतना पानी की बर्बादी करते हैं, है ना? तो I think हम लोगों को सोचना चाहिए कि कितनी मुश्किल होती है लोगों को पानी को कलेक्ट करके ले जाने में. जो हमारे नल का खोलते इतना आ जाता है आसानी से. So I think when you go to a region like this, these are the things I think as climbers, as tourists, we need to notice. When we take our children there, these are the things we should open our children to. See, this is what it is. See how they're managing. Let our children speak to these local communities. कि अगर वो किसी महिला को देखते हैं कुछ करते हैं तो let your children speak to them, because it's important for us to sensitize our children, because eventually children are going to lead the world now. So it's important to create that kind of sensitivity. तो मुझे कोई हर्ज नहीं कि हमारे बच्चे वहां जाके रील्स बनाए सोशल मीडिया पे डालें, बट ये भी जरूरी है कि हमारे बच्चे वहां जाकर जो है लोकल कम्युनिटी से बात करें, ताकि सेंसिटिव हो इन चीजों के लिए. And children are very sensitive. If you give them space, allow them these experiences. So use these kind of trips to the hills to make your children sensitive towards, you know. ऐसा नहीं कि कार में ही बैठे बैठे ऑर्डर किया खा ले निकल गया. Let them speak to the दुकानदार. Let them speak to other local people. And all that पहाड़ों के लोग बहुत प्यारे होते हैं. उनके साथ बैठ के गप कीजिए, इतनी अच्छी बातें आपको सुनाते हैं. So let your children experience that also whenever they go to any पर्वत.
वहां से -7 डिग्री से यहाँ पे आके आपको कैसा लगा?
Oh, don't ask me. It was.
Experience both extremes.
Oh yes. It was, you know, it was like first acclimatizing to -5, -7 degrees Celsius. और आखिरी के जो 2 दिन थे, जब तक हम एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप नहीं पहुंचे थे, आखिरी की 2 रातें बहुत मुश्किल थी, because you are not able to breathe properly, so you're breathless. You are not able to eat because वो हो जाता है जब हायर ऑल्टीट्यूड में जाते हैं तो आपका खाने की आपकी इच्छा नहीं करती. You have to force feed yourself because you have to trek for 7-8 hours. Your body needs energy. तो 2 रातें बहुत मुश्किल से कटी थी. वो पूरी रात हम लोग जागे रहते थे, क्योंकि जैसे ही लेटते थे तो ऐसा लगता था कि सांस नहीं आ रही है. तो 2 nights I remember वहां पे बैठ के सोए हम लोग. तो बेड पे बैठ जाते थे अपना वो रजाई ओढ़कर, and just sit and try and sleep for 2-3 hours. वो था. अब जब तक वो एक्लिमेटाइज करके नीचे पहुंचे तो यहाँ अलग एक्लिमेटाइजेशन चैलेंज हो गया था. And because I live in Mumbai, so straight from there went to Mumbai.
You're not used to neither.
Yeah, so
No
and
heat,
Mumbai
no
at that
cold.
time was having a crazy heat wave. It was hot, it was humid. I landed in Mumbai and I felt terribly sick. So that is what it was. But now it is fine. I think it's a great learning experience. I think कुछ यात्राएं जो है हमें एक इंसान के तरीके में भी बदल देती है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है. एंड मेरे लिए ये यात्रा जो है एज अ जर्नलिस्ट तो थी ही, जिसके लिए मैं स्टोरीज लिख रही हूँ, और बट इस यात्रा ने मेरे ख्याल से मुझे काफी एक सेंसिटिव है और बनाया. इसने मुझे चीजों को दूसरों के नजरिए से देखने की जो एक शक्ति है, जो एक्चुअली हम सब ह्यूमन बीइंग्स में होती है, वो दी है. एंड आई थिंक ऐसी यात्राओं में हमें चाहिए कि हम अपने आप को जो है इन एक्सपीरियंसेस के लिए रेडी रखें, बिकॉज दीज एक्सपीरियंस कैन रियली चेंज योर लाइफ, चेंज द वे यू लुक एट इट, चेंज द वे यू लुक एट थिंग्स. That's very important. And I think all of us, whenever we go to hills, whenever we go to parvats, I think these are the little experiences which we should keep ourselves open.
I think how basic things like water, sanitation, consumption of food, tourism in general works in the mountains is very, very different from how it looks in the plains. है ना? अधिकतर समय हम भूल जाते हैं कि हम पहाड़ में हैं, पर हमें प्लेन्स के मतलब आदत पड़ी रहती है. I feel like this experience that you've shared with us, it's eye-opening for understanding how water supply itself, पानी यही है, मेरी नदी बह रही है, but उसको कलेक्ट करके यूज करने के लिए भी it's a different challenge. We are very used to opening our taps and just receiving water, and while brushing, keeping the taps on as well.
Right.
But when you are higher up there, where the resources are limited and less accessible, then one learns to respect them a little more.
Right.
Somewhere I feel like हम लोग का accountability, awareness, plains का ही रहता है, पर हम पहाड़ों में जाते हैं
Mm.
and we probably continue our behavior the same way.
Right.
Where I also feel that we have to modify our behavior to learn to respect the space where we are. हम अपने शहर में रहते हैं, अपने घर में रहते हैं, वैसे ही we must also learn to live in a different city, in a different space, and learn to respect their norms as well. Because at the end of the day, these are very ecologically fragile spaces, and if we harm them, then we really, I don't know what is the end to that. Because if there are so many people even reaching such high altitudes, I, as a human myself, I don't know what is the limit कि उसके बाद
Right.
इंसान नहीं जाए. So through the conversation, I feel like I have been personally sensitized that we हम तो वहां भी पहुंच गए.
Right.
कि next चांद पे ही जाना है कि सीधा.
नहीं नहीं, बिल्कुल आप चीजें जो बोल रहे हैं, और मैं दो चीजें अनंत इसमें ऐड करना चाहूंगी कि एक चीज जो हमें याद रखनी होती है कि हम लोग जो है दैट वी आर, जब हम लोग किसी के घर भी जाते हैं, आपने देखा होगा जब बचपन में थे कहीं और जाते थे तो हमें कहा जाता था कि आप किसी घर जा रहे हैं, मेहमान बन के जा रहे हैं, तरीके से रहिएगा, हाँ तरीके से रहिएगा वहां पे, अपनी मतलब जो आपकी मैनर्स है उनको मत भूलिएगा, जिस तरीके से जो खाने को मिलेगा चुपचाप खा लेना. आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर अपने किसी के घर जाते थे और अगर गलती से हमने एक की जगह दो बिस्कुट उठा ले तो मेरी मम्मी एकदम गुस्से से हमें आंखों से देखती थी कि ये क्या बदतमीजी है किसी घर. तो ये हम सब ने ये चीजें सीखी हैं कि आप किसी और के यहाँ जा रहे हो, आप गेस्ट हो, तो जो वहाँ के लोग हैं उनके तौर तरीकों से रहिए. सो आई थिंक हम लोग जब जाते हैं हिल स्टेशन में, ऐसी एरियाज में, आई थिंक लेट्स go with the mind that we are guests in that area. We don't belong there. We are guests. We are visiting some other people. Let us respect their culture, their norms, and we have to try and fit in.
Right.
They don't have to fit in to
accommodate our
हाँ,
whims.
अब जो आपके हिल स्टेशन हैं आपके हिमालयाज में, वो गुड़गांव तो है नहीं, वो गुड़गांव का मॉल तो है नहीं कि आप वहां जाएंगे सोचकर. तो आप मॉल जाना है तो अपने शहरों में मॉल्स में घूमिए. इसी जगहों में जाना है तो जो वहां के कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, और उनकी कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस जो है वो नेचर को ध्यान में रखते हुए ही बनी हुई है, वो अनसाइंटिफिक नहीं है. वो ये नहीं है कि ये क्या, ये पागल हो गए हैं कहते हैं इसको यहाँ से पानी मत पियो और ये हमारा सेक्रेट ग्रोव है, यहाँ हमारे देवता रहते हैं, हमारे ये क्या है. सो ये सब कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस जो है वो नेचर को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए ही बनाई गई थी. तो वी आर द गेस्ट्स, वी हैव टू फॉलो व्हाट दे फॉलो इन दैट कल्चर. उस तरह से हम जाए. और एक बहुत अच्छी लर्निंग जो थी, क्योंकि हम लोग वहां पे जब जा रहे थे एवरेस्ट बेस कैंप पे, तो नामची बाजार जो एक शेरपा विलेज है वहां का बहुत फेमस, अब तो वहां पर जो है कांचा शेरपा करके एक है जो 1953 में जो पहली बार समिट किया था एवरेस्ट को तेंजिंग एंड हिलरी ने. तो उनकी जो एक पूरी टीम थी उसमें हाई ऑल्टीट्यूड शेरपास दे हैड सेलेक्टेड. So Kancha Sherpa was a member of that high altitude Sherpa team, which helped Tenzing and Norway summit Everest on May 29, 1953. So out of that entire huge team now, Kancha Sherpa is the only living member of that team of Tenzing and Hillary, and he's 92 years old now. So we also went to his house to meet him. And, I thought 92 years old man, he will be so old. What will he talk? How will we interview him? We reached his house and they told us he's having his breakfast and we'll come out shortly. So I was just thinking in my mind, how do we even talk to him? What will he tell us? You won't believe he walks out without any stick or anything. And he sits there and then starts to talk. And he starts to talk and you ask him questions. He is mentally so agile that he is answering all your questions perfectly well. You ask him about 1950-53 expedition, he knows everything, he remembers everything. And he's telling you everything so coherently. So that was, I think, one of the high points of going to Everest Base Camp, to be able to meet the last living member of the first expedition team. And during the end of, so he was telling us very, very interesting things about what had happened, about his childhood and how difficult childhood he had, and what was the condition of Sherpa villages at that time and all. And then towards the end, I actually asked him that, you were part of the expedition that opened Everest for the world.
Yes.
Now you see people from all over, coming to summit Everest. How do you feel about it? And he actually, while talking, he quoted his hand like this, and he said that Sagar Mata is our goddess, हमारी देवी है, and we all pray to her. And he said, for us, conquering a goddess is unthinkable. You cannot conquer your goddess ever. So Sherpas never even thought of climbing peaks. It was not part of their culture ever. They were always living there. They would see them, pray to them, and be them. They never thought that, even now they find it futile that why would you go up there and then come down? What do you get? Go up, see the world, come down. I mean, why would you do that? And he just said that, for us, she's our goddess, but now it's all about money. Whoever pays can just try and summit Everest. And he also was very sad about the fact the way the entire concept around Sagar Mata has now changed and how it has opened up, and anybody can just pay money and summit their goddess. So there is a huge cultural context also.
Nepal does not have any cap on,
No,
no caps on the number of tourists who can visit.
no. So there is no cap. I think now it's becoming a very, very burning issue because, like I told you in the beginning, that there was this whole human traffic jam on Everest Peak. So recently, Nepal Supreme Court has also told the government that you must do a proper carrying capacity study of that region, and you must put a cap on the number of climbers you will allow per season to summit. It's not that right now whoever pays $600 can try summiting, but now they are saying every season government must put a cap. Like I think the last spring season they told me some 700 climbers summiting. So that's the kind of thing now it's happening where they want to put a cap. Now let's see if Nepal government acts on it and how it does it. Like Sagar Mata Pollution Control Committee people were telling me in a climbing season, see, they don't even have per day waste generation data. They don't have. See, you should look at how do they collect it?
Right.
You're looking at that elevation, that community, which doesn't understand data collection and all of that. So I asked them, what is your per day waste, solid waste and wastewater generation? Wastewater generation, they have no data at all. Solid waste, they said, we have data for a climbing season. Like in a climbing season of say 70 days, from Mount Everest, they collect some 30,000 kilograms of waste, 70 days period. So maybe if you divide it by 70, so you get per day, that's the kind of waste which is being generated. Namche Bazaar, which is one of the main Sherpa villages where everybody comes on their way up or down from Everest Base Camp or Everest, there they are generating 19,000 kilograms of waste in one climbing season. None of them have waste management systems for that. So it's so the biodegradable waste, of course, they put it into the farming things, but a lot of it is also non-biodegradable. Now, if you ask them what is your percentage of non-biodegradable, they again wouldn't have, because they don't have right now they don't have the ability to collect that kind of data separately. But yeah, they said that as of now we are forced to burn, because that's the only thing right now we can do. Now through Sagar Mata next, which is like I was telling you, a studio that has been set up there. They are now trying to set up some material recovery facility centers at different locations along the route. But all this is going to take time, take money, take a lot of effort, a lot of interest in that region.
But the government has taken interest in this.
Government is taking, a lot of international serious mountaineering groups are also taking. People who love mountains. So they also have Carry Me Back is one of the campaigns they have now started. So they have created these bags, So they request people that if you come in here, carry 1 kilogram bag, nice bags, take it down to Nukla. And they have a deposit center at Nukla, you just go and deposit it. over there because you're in any case climbing down. So just carry 1 kilogram bag,
What is there in that
waste.
waste?
So you're bringing back the waste.
Exactly, the non-biodegradable and anybody else's waste. Because if you love the mountains, it doesn't matter if I threw that wrapper or somebody else. I don't want that area to get destroyed. So they have these bags made. So if you want voluntarily, you can go collect 1 bag. And so I actually did see some foreigners carry that bag down with them to Lukla. So I think that's the kind of, if you can carry your phone, your big cameras, your tripods and all of that, you can also carry one small, bag. If your health and your energy levels permit, you bring that kind of bag. Or least of all, even if you're eating some toffees there, I understand that region, you start feeling nauseatic, sick, so you want to eat some toffees and all. Just put the wrapper in your bag, no? Like whenever we ate any toffee and all, just to feel better, we would just put the wrappers in our bag and bring it down, rather than just even throwing it in the bin there. Because these plastic wrappers and all don't weigh too much. Add some 500 kilograms to your backpack. So you just put it in your bag, just bring it down. Small things, I think we all should do. We all must do.
And this, just out of curiosity, this carrying me bag, it is, what material is it? And is it reused?
Yes. These are like, you have those backpack material. Have you seen?
Yeah.
A lot of backpacks are made of that.
Cloth
that,
piece.
Yeah, not it's like a cloth. It's like a easy
waterproof.
dry, waterproof
Okay.
kind of those. These packs they have made. It's nice. So they put it, just carry it like that. You can even in your backpack, it has a small handle. You can just hang
on
it.
that.
So you don't
That's
have to
actually
hold it in
pretty
your
good.
hand. Because if you're holding trekking sticks and all, you can just like hang it with your trekking bag and you can just bring it down and deposit it.
Any volunteering basis?
Yes, absolutely. Completely volunteering basis. You want to take it and people are actually doing it. So I think small actions matter. Like कहते हैं बूंद बूंद से सागर बनता है, घड़ा भरता है. We've grown up reading that thing of कौवे को पानी पीना है, एक पत्थर डाल रहा है. So I think all these small actions do matter and they add up to make a bigger difference.
Absolutely.
So all of us individuals, when we go there, if we do these small basic things, I think we would have respected that area and I think we would come back with less guilt, to be very honest. You also feel very guilty after going to these areas. Every time you pee, you poop, you're like, oh shit. And especially if you're an environment journalist, every morning you would think, okay, now where is this going?
Yeah.
So you start feeling a little less guilty कि okay, इतना तो हमने किया जो हम कर सकते हैं और करना भी चाहिए.
I think this is something that, even the Indian Himalayan region, these Northeast and North Indian states and hill stations can take as a learning from your instance in the Everest Base Camp. Because these are things, if they're mandated, the people who are willing to do it will do it. And the people who don't want to do it, it's just going to discourage them from visiting these kind of places.
Right.
So I think it's something that's really small, but it can make a very significant impact. So I think just to wrap up, I'm going to ask you this. What are 3 suggestions that, that you could just, come to your mind about how one can address the kind of problems that you've seen, especially in, fragile mountainous regions like the Everest?
But also I'd like to add to that question, while ensuring that humans still have access to Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Like we
But-
can't restrict anybody from
Yes.
visiting a place, but what can we do to curb it or to sort of give nature that time to heal itself? Or,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think, what I will say is that nature heals us. It's the other way around. Every time you visit a forest, you sit next to a river, you suddenly start to feel calm, start to feel nice. You look at wildlife, you look at birds flying, it just calms you. So nature is actually the best healer. Now you see a lot of people taking therapies and all of that. And I think nature is also a therapy, which is required, which we all need. So there is no reason to say that we have to disconnect human beings from nature. We don't have to. If you see Indian culture, we always lived close to the nature. All our tribal communities have lived very close to the nature. They've lived in the forests and protected those forests. So as against the Western model of conservation, where it is people are kept out and you have these in large inviolates. In India, communities have always lived with their nature and they have protected the nature because they're dependent on nature. I have my water coming from there. I have my fuel wood coming from there. I have my telu pata coming from there. All the resources that I get, I mean, हम लोग बाघ की पूजा करते हैं। right? बाघ जो है, अगर आप महाराष्ट्र जहाँ मैं रहती हूँ, वहां पे बाघ जो है, बाघ के मंदिर बने हुए, बाघों की पूजा होती है वहां पर। So that's the kind of culture we come from. So we do not want to dissociate people from nature. Rather, the dissociation that has happened in the past few decades because of the kind of conservation we have started to follow, which is keeping people out of nature and forests, we have to, rework it. Which is why it's important. One is to bring local communities, like you said, what could be done. Bring local communities more into the management aspect, like Saga is doing. One of the biggest national parks in Nepal is completely managed by the local communities. And they're doing it so well. It is so green, it is so beautiful, the rivers are clean because local people are managing it and living there for so long. So I think it's a lesson for us also in India that you have to involve local communities, forest dwelling communities when you're managing them. And in a lot of places in India, it has actually started happening in a lot of areas. I have recently traveled to some villages in Madhya Pradesh, forest villages, where actually the forest department is now using local tribal youth to manage forest fires. So they have realized that if forests have to be protected, only the local people, tribal communities can protect them. So they've realized forest fires managed, you have to involve local communities. So
they're the biggest stakeholders of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you have to reconnect these things. And also, when we go to the forest areas, I always say, please take your children there. Because I am realizing I have 2 kids and my son is 12 years old. And I realize that when I take him to some areas, it makes him very sensitive towards those things. When you say, आपका पानी फलानी नदी से आ रहा है, नहीं उस connection नहीं बैठता किसी को भी, right? But when you take your children and show them this is from where your water is coming, from here it travels 100 kilometers, this happens, that happens, it actually starts connecting them to these natural resources. It starts, it tells them exactly. उनको लगता है कि नहीं ये जरूरी है, इसको मैं बचाना है ना? तो हमारा चाहे अगर हमारा खेतों से अगर खाना आ रहा है तो please make them experience how food is grown so that they know, they will respect that bit more rather than respecting the food apps, delivery apps that are there on phone. तो वो बच्चों को जो है नेचर के साथ में जोड़ना, मुझे लगता है दूसरी चीज जो है, चाहे वो स्कूल के थ्रू हो, कॉलेजेस के थ्रू हो, इस पॉडकास्ट किसी भी तरीके से बच्चों को नेचर के साथ में जो है बहुत ही हमें जरूरी जोड़ना है। और एक चीज जो और मैं कहना चाहूंगी पहाड़ों के संदर्भ में, वो ये है that even in Indian Himalayan region and all, especially the hot spots that are there, we all know which are the major hill stations जहाँ हर गर्मियों में लोग जाते हैं। बहुत जरूरी है कि हम उन एरियाज की एक जेन्युइन साइंटिफिक कैरिंग कैपेसिटी स्टडी करें और ये डिसाइड करने कि भाई गर्मी में या इस सीजन में हम इतने ही टूरिस्ट को मैनेज कर सकते हैं। We cannot manage beyond that. उसी हिसाब से आप होटेल्स को अलाउ कीजिए, उसी हिसाब से आप परमिट्स और पासेस कीजिए, नहीं तो ना आप उनको नहाने के लिए पानी दे पाएंगे और कचरा तो आपके वहां पे ढेरों जो है बढ़ता जा रहा है। तो मेरे को लगता है कि ये जरूरी है that we have to put a cap on the number of people that should be visiting our hill stations in a particular season, so that whoever goes there has a good experience also. You're not frustrated कि 10 घंटे से ट्रैफिक जैम में पहुंचे हुए हैं, होटल में पहुंचे, अरे यहाँ पे तो पानी भी नहीं आ रहा है। all those things. You don't want, and it has actually started happening
Absolutely.
in those areas also.
पहाड़ी नहीं बचेगा तो जाएंगे कहाँ?
Exactly, and you want to go there. You want your children to go there, It's not that कि आप जाके उसको खत्म करना चाहते हैं ना, आप चाहते हैं कि आपके बच्चे भी आगे जाएं ऐसी जगहों में, इनको experience करें. So we all have to be slightly more respectful and also I think restrain ourselves.
Right. बचपन में किताबों में पढ़ा था माउंट एवरेस्ट के बारे में, but today through the podcast, I'm learning from a person who's had first-hand experience. And while it sounds beautiful, Mount Everest, the discussions also kind of showed us the other side of how anthropogenic actions can bear challenges on this beauty of Mother Nature. And there's so much that we have touched upon, but I still feel like we've touched upon so little.
I wish we had more time.
Yes.
Keep listening to
Yes.
whatever you have to say.
I can talk for hours. I'm so much filled with information, emotions,
I
stories.
totally understand. You're also wanting to, let as many people know about what
yes,
you see.
yes.
But we would like to thank you for participating in this podcast and shedding light on the challenges of at a Parvat level.
Yes.
I think it's eye-opening. पता नहीं मैं कभी जाऊंगा कि नहीं EBC,
Yeah.
but the experiences are for a lifetime that I've
Right.
learned from you. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
so
great
much for
having
having
you.
me here.
It was
Thank you
great
so
having
much.
you.
And I would like to tell just listeners the end incident. I think I was in class 4 or 5, and we had a geography viva. So the teacher asked us different questions. There was one question, only one question that I couldn't answer. That was the height of Mount Everest. Now, when I got selected for this boot camp, I was going there. I was just like grinning and smiling, and I wished I could reconnect with my geography teacher.
Life has come a full
Yeah. That actually it has happened, but yeah, it's been a immense learning for me, and I'm glad I could share my experiences, and I hope it will all help us love our hills, our mountains, our parvats even more.
Absolutely. Thank you so
You
much.
learned and we're learning in exchange. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank
It was
you.
great having you.
Thank you, viewers, and thank you for tuning in again for the podcast. And we
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yes. See you soon.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you.